My guest, Amy, was close to giving up on her marriage to a narcissistic alcoholic man. But with 7 kids, she felt trapped and she didn't know what to do. Then she did something that lifted her out of a very deep, dark well to find hope in the light of a new relationship with her husband. And now she recognizes he has always been her hero. And she can't believe how emotionally intimate their marriage is now. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Amy, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited to have you as my guest today. Can't wait to hear your story.
Wow, Laura. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Well, as you know, I love to hear about the bad old days. I love to start there. So what was going wrong?
Well, just to give some background first, my husband and I got together when we were 15. We were opposites in so many ways. I'm sanguine and optimistic, and he's melancholic and brooding, and I can be flighty and impulsive, and he's methodical and grounded. And I was a good student, and he dropped out of high school. But we were magnetized together. We were inseparable. We were best friends. But we were also still kids, and we were immature. And so as time went on, we still had a lot of immature habits in our communication. Because growing up is hard. It's hard. And I struggled to see him as a man, and he really struggled to see me as a woman. And that caused a lot of foundational issues for us. So after we got married, we were 22 and we started to have kids, and the tensions between us really increased. Our differences, which had attracted us initially, really became repellents. We were just in these power struggles and constant competition. And we would work through things, but then we just experienced these cycles of happiness and then disconnect and fighting and cold wars. Mm-hmm. And my husband had started a business when we were 20, and it just completely consumed him. So after we started having kids, I thought I was being most helpful by taking care of everything that was kid related, by being so independent so that he could just focus on his business. But I also worked there with him too. So as our family was growing, I eventually stayed home and started homeschooling and became even more kid-centric. And there was a chasm that was really growing between us. I felt so unloved, so unappreciated, invisible. Nothing I did at home was good enough. I resented the time that he spent away from us. And so I thought that going to the church and having our marriage convalidated would be the answer. I pleaded with him to go to Retrovi, a Catholic marriage ministry. We tried various marriage counselors, but nothing really helped. It actually only fueled our differences. I would give him books to read. I would send podcasts and articles, but he would never read them. And I was always trying to fix us, or him, really. It was really him. I mean, if only he weren't so difficult. I was just convinced that I had married a narcissist and everything would be okay if he would just get help for his issues.
Sounds very stressful. So stressful. And you're just at home. I shouldn't say just at home. You're at home with a whole bunch of kids. You're working really hard, and you were working in the business for a while too. So I just hear a lot of that's a lot of strain, right? That sounds like tired Amy to me.
I was tired. Yes. Okay. Yes, I was tired. But I did. Yeah, go ahead.
No, and he was gone a lot. So because he was mostly working, that's why he was gone.
Yeah, he was working, and then he did get to a place where he didn't have to be there all day every day. So he would go in really early, like 4 or 5 in the morning. But then he didn't have to be there all day, and he started to get really into cycling and marathon running. And so he would spend 3 hours out cycling or running, and I was really resentful that he was choosing to do that instead of being home with the kids and I. So that.
Yeah, those are time-consuming sports to like marathoning. I know it takes a lot of time. So, all right. So you're taking him to these different marriage counseling. You're trying to solve it. This is, and it's not working.
Yeah. No, I'm talking to all my friends about it too. Like what can I do to fix him? What can I do to change him? Yeah, that was really helpful.
And we're laughing about it now, but I remember it was painful. Like it wasn't I was looking for an answer that way. It seemed like that was going to help, right? To complain to your friends, but that wasn't helpful. It sounds like. And
No.
how did your friends feel about him after hearing about all the problems that were?
Well, I'd often hear that just it wasn't normal, that I would get validated that, there was definitely something wrong with them. You know? And then I would just go on these Google searches too, and then, compare him to other people. And it was just not helpful.
Yeah,
So yeah, I felt really alone. I felt so alone.
yeah, yeah. It is. It is very lonely. I remember. And what did you find from your Google searches? Were you able to come up with any diagnoses for your
Oh, of
husband?
course.
Okay,
Oh, yeah. He was a
so
narcissist. He had the Jekyll and Hyde syndrome. Um, yeah, I mean, just depression, anxiety, you name it. It's like you
okay,
name
okay, and a
it.
bunch.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and the Jekyll and Hyde. That's like part of the narcissist.
So I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm sure it
Okay,
falls under it.
okay, okay. I'm like, that's a new one for me. I haven't heard that one.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh yeah, that's another diagnosis that there's no hope for.
oh,
There's no
okay,
hope for. Yeah, you
gotcha.
just believe. Yeah,
And
yeah.
the, and so, and how were you coping with all this? I mean, knowing that it was kind of hopeless and he had all these problems, like
Yeah.
what was your, how were you coping?
Well, that's a really good question, Laura, because I was coping since I'm sanguine and social. I coped by filling that void with my friendships, with relationships, and being affirmed through my relationships and friendships outside of my marriage. And so that was a huge coping mechanism for me. Yeah.
Which kind of proves that you were the good spouse and he's the bad one, right?
Exactly.
Because you're able
Right?
to
Yeah. Yeah.
these
Of
great
course.
relationships.
Look how likable I am, right? Look at
Right?
you. Yeah.
Normal. Like who wouldn't
Right?
like you? Yeah. And what kind of atmosphere was there at home as far as like were you still in the same bedroom? Was there just like a lot of fights? Was it more like Cold Wars? What was
Yeah,
happening?
so we were still in the same bedroom, but there were a lot of fights. I mean, our poor oldest kids. So yeah, they lived through a lot of just terrible fighting and a lot of tension, a lot of me just running away, and that only fueled it with me just slamming the door and running out the door and driving off, and a lot of me crying, a lot of me, in this victim mode, and I felt abused. I felt like there was verbal abuse, and it was hurtful. It was really hurtful and very stressful at times for our kids. Yeah, not good.
Ah, yeah, I appreciate hearing that because I mean, that's such a vulnerable thing to share that you were feeling vulnerably or verbally abused
Yeah.
by him. And just because I think, and I just know for me, when I was feeling that way too, it was like that. This is like, oh, now I'm really the worst kind of victim because I know you're not supposed to put up with that. You're not supposed to stand for that. Like you should get out if that's what's
Yeah, and
happening.
yeah, and I would pick up my sword. I would pick up my sword and I would tell him how wrong he was and how he couldn't treat me that way, and how dare you? I'm your wife. I'm the mother of your children. How dare you talk to me that way? It's so disrespectful. This is abusive. And it always it always got worse. It didn't ever resolve the issue. Yeah.
And what kinds of things did you feel like? What kinds of things was he saying that you were like, okay, that's verbal abuse?
Oh gosh. I mean, there were a lot of terrible names. Terrible. I mean, I don't even, yeah, just bad things, bad accusations, bad words, just things that would make me so sad for our kids to hear him say that to their mom, and it just would hurt to deeply, deeply to the core.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Yeah, I appreciate hearing that. Thanks for that vulnerability about what was happening because I think I mean, do you think other people really knew that was going on, or was it like they'd see the family photos and everybody's smiling kind of thing? Like, is that, like, there was one thing going on at home and kind of a different impression publicly, would you say? Or were people aware that there was a
For sure. I
problem?
think most people felt like, oh, the Davenport, they've had some things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people believe it. And I don't, we did have some great, it wasn't 100%, it wasn't absolute, but there was this side. And I did have some really, really close friends that were very aware of these challenges and they knew how much pain we were in.
And what were they advising you to do?
I mean, well, it kind of gets on like further in my story, where friends had a hard time standing for us. Yeah, really hard.
Wow. Okay. And so were you considering divorce?
At that point, not yet. Not
Okay.
yet. I mean, yeah, not yet. We hadn't hit our rock bottom yet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me everything. what,
Yeah.
what
Well,
happened?
I started to feel somewhat hopeful when we decided to sell our business. I really believed that that would be the catalyst for change. I thought, okay, by him shedding all this stress at work, maybe he'll be more joyful and present at home. And so we sold our company and we went on a trip to Italy in December of 2019. And I just remember standing up in this upper hilltop medieval town and looking down over the city on New Year's Eve 2020, watching the fireworks together. We had our two oldest kids with us. The other kids stayed behind with grandparents. And yeah, we felt so excited about our future. Like this is it. We're gonna make some really big changes, and this is we're reclaiming. And so I felt united with him. I felt good. But then we got back home, and yeah, it was that dreaded 2020. Who knew what we were entering into that New Year's? Just COVID squashed all of our plans of starting a new business that we were really excited about. And that just became a domino effect of trials. My husband initiated a really big remodel project on our home that was very disruptive on family life. And it was during the height of COVID lockdowns. And then I miscarried our eighth baby. And things just started to get really challenging and really difficult, even more so. But then by the end of 2020, our house was done, and I had started this hybrid homeschooling school. I had recruited 25 families to join. It had been a lot of work, but I just loved the community that we were building. Our kids were happy. I was pregnant again, so it felt like, okay, we're like, here we go. And then February of 2021, my husband had gone on a trip and he was still struggling to figure out what he was going to do professionally and as a provider. So he had gone on a trip to Texas. And while he was gone, I miscarried our ninth baby at 15 weeks. And so he came home the date that I miscarried, and I was laying in bed, just filled with the deepest grief over this loss that I just was really hanging on to as being, just this hope, this baby being this hope. And yeah, and he told me that he wanted to move all of us to Texas to start a new business there. And I just felt so numb. I could not believe how insensitive and how disconnected he was. Here I was laying in bed, like really suffering. And he was so detached from me. Like, we're moving away, and I just felt so alone. And my in-laws were going to move too, and I just felt cajoled into just getting on board with the plan. I was like
Wow.
so upset I couldn't imagine leaving this community, which had been my lifeline and my biggest support.
And you had just built this 25 families, like this.
100 students. I built up this hybrid and
He's
recruited
like,
all these people selling this vision of like, we're going to do this. And then my husband was pulling the rug out from under all of it.
wow. And it wasn't like, hey, what do you think about, yeah. And it was not a good day to discuss it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That
And on
sounds
top of it,
rough.
yeah, he had started, so he had struggled with alcoholism when we were young and then had been sober for 10 years, but he had started drinking again. And he was showing
Scary.
signs of really losing control. And so I was really afraid and wanted him to tackle his addiction before we moved anywhere. I really believed that this move was going to break us. It was going to be our breaking point. But the plan proceeded despite all my kicking and screaming and sharing my fears and opinions. So I went and talked to a priest. And the priest told me that husbands have certain graces that wives don't have. And he encouraged me to trust my husband. And I wanted to say, but let me give you all the reasons why.
What
Yeah.
does that even mean? Certain graces that,
Yeah. Well, and then he told me about Joseph's crazy dream to lead Mary to Egypt, which ultimately saved the Holy Family. And so he inspired me to trust, even though I didn't want to. And so I left there just at least I couldn't argue with that. It was like, okay, that's true. Okay. I gotta just I gotta trust. I don't know. I don't know what else to do. So there we were. We were in Texas in this huge house that we had just taken out a mortgage on after we had sold our home in Northern California that was completely paid off. We had financial stability, and he had started this new business and tied up money in that. And I had to figure out schooling again and community and friends for myself and for the kids and new doctors and dentists and what stores I would shop from and what my routes would be everywhere. And my health was in the tank. I was severely anemic and dealing with thyroid issues because of my miscarriage and just exhaustion.
Mm.
And our kids, especially our teens, were just miserable and so bitter and resentful towards us. And we were not a united front. And I didn't know what to do. I felt like I had made the biggest mistake of my life by marrying him. I thought we were just way too young. We had no idea what we were doing. I was a fool. But then, Laura, I would just look at all of our kids and I knew without a doubt that they were meant to be here and that they only existed because of our union. So then I thought, well, maybe I was just undeserving of happiness and my marriage was meant to be a heavy cross to carry. Or maybe this was my punishment for my sins. But I also believe that my God is a loving father and that he wants us to be happy. And I just felt so conflicted and so confused.
Oh, painful. But I love the assurance that you took from looking at your children and saying, I know they're meant to be here. So this has to be right. This marriage has to be right, even though you were suffering so much.
Yeah.
Oh my
One day I
gosh.
was at Mass and our priest during his homily said, if you believe there's someone who wants to make you miserable, that is a lie from Satan. And I looked at my husband and I thought, well, it's true for us. I could only see that he delighted in making me miserable, or at least he resented my happiness. So I got to a point where I was seriously considering just packing up the van with the kids and driving back to California. And I even had friends saying that I could stay with them. So when you asked, I had friends that they loved me. They didn't want to, they loved me, the kids, they loved us. And they just saw how miserable I was.
Yeah.
And so
They
one
wanted
night,
to hurt you. Yeah.
I mean, And one night I was just laying in bed and I shared with my husband that I felt so alone. I shared that I was really carrying the weight of everything pertaining to the kids on my shoulders, that I was deeply concerned. And mostly my fears were that our kids would lose their faith because of this move and because of his drinking. And I told him I felt like I was coaching our whole family team by myself, trying to get everyone across the finish line to heaven, and that he was just bankrolling it. But he said, Amy, if the kids lose their faith, it will be because you're joyless. And initially, Laura, I felt the urge to just be defensive because my heart had just been stabbed. I was like, in my head, I was just like, me?
Yeah.
You're the
Ouch.
killer. You're the miserable one.
Yeah.
But by God's grace, without even knowing the skills yet, I heard his heart message, which, is usually, it sounds like a criticism on the surface, but I knew in that moment, I knew that that was the experience that he was having of me. And so I just resolved then and there that I had to get happy no matter what, no matter where I was, no matter what my situation, I had to get happy. And if there was any truth to what he was saying, that the kids would lose their faith because of me, then I would never forgive myself.
Whoa. Oof. That's a very accountable response. I can certainly see, what a big ouch that was, and how you could have been defensive and or just dismissive at least.
Yeah.
Like, look who's talking, pot, you're black or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't. You decided right then to get happy.
Yeah, it was a grace-filled moment. It was not, that's all I can say. Yeah. So I started this Ignatian spiritual exercise retreat at our parish. And then just a couple days into it, I was about to pay for a session with a therapist. But I believe by the promptings of the Holy Spirit, I came across you, Laura Doyle. And I had listened to your book and podcast several years before, but I have to be honest, I disregarded it because it wasn't rooted in faith and you didn't have any kids. And I thought, how can this lady possibly relate to my situation? But now I was really desperate and I threw myself all in. And I heard about Ridiculously Happy Wives and I joined immediately. And I thought, okay, Laura, make me ridiculously happy. I'm ready. Like, I'm all yours. So I downloaded the modules. I watched every video. I started getting on group calls and I just kind of lurked in the background, listening to the story after story of transformation. And then in time, I gained courage to share my wins and my takeaways. And then I eventually sat in the hot seat for coaching myself. And I found it so helpful. And I could finally see these pinpoints of light. I was finally feeling hopeful, like I had this path forward. I felt empowered, and I started to dive into self-care. I had no idea what I even liked, but I just started choosing 3 things a day to do. I started walking every morning, having something to look forward. And mind you, I'm homeschooling, alone without great community, but I just took a walk every morning before I started our day. I would have something to look forward to in the afternoon, like nothing, just like a kombucha or tea or a piece of chocolate, and then something in the evening, like something social on the calendar or relaxing with a bath. I would curl my hair for no reason or wear accessories again, get my nails done, which I had never done. I started to ask myself, how do I feel? What do I want? So I could check in on my fuel tank throughout the day. And I allowed myself to take naps, which I had never done that before. I had always prided myself on being low maintenance and so capable and reliable and not needy. Because I thought naps and self-care were for like self-centered wimps, but I just relinquished control of my kids and their papers and trying to make friends for them and ensuring all their scholastic success and activities. And I just got squarely on my paper and I relinquished control of what movies they were watching and whether or not they were being lazy, whether or not they were brushing their teeth even. I just got like so on my paper, I didn't even know what I had to do.
Wow. Okay. I have so many questions. I love this part of your story. Like you went all in on the self-care and really getting on your paper and relinquishing control of their paper now. So a couple of things come up for me. So as a mom with, like, I think you have 8 kids at this point. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how did you get a nap during the day when you must have had littles, right?
I mean, I was at the point where I had older kids too, to really, and I didn't have any like little, I mean, I had a 4-year-old, so that was my youngest.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So it's partly, the older ones help with the younger ones. Okay. So, and then,
or just, I would just do it. I'm just going to go lay down for a little bit.
Okay. And then, but I mean, a 4-year-old might come in the middle and say, mommy, right? Like right. I need a glass of water or something, right? Like,
yeah. And I mean, I would just, okay, so-and-so can get it for you.
Okay. You would delegate that.
Yeah.
I just love as you say, I don't have children. So I'm just curious because sometimes I think this is a big challenge. A lot of moms will say like, how can I nap during the day? First of all, I'd be interrupted. There's, there's nobody these kids need to be supervised all the time. And I need to make sure they're brushing their teeth. You let go of them brushing their teeth even. So like, tell me about that, right? Like, so, I mean,
Super scary. Yeah.
what's super
Because, you
scary.
go to the dentist and the dentist is asking you, like, how often are they brushing? And it's like, this is all obviously all over my paper. But now I go to the dentist and they say, I don't know, you should ask them how much they're brushing their teeth. Like, I don't know, like, how much are you brushing your teeth? I just,
You
it's just,
got out of the middle with the dentist. You're not in
yeah.
the middle anymore. They have their own teeth.
And even school, I ended up, yeah, that's been a gradual transition out of homeschooling because I could just see that it was really hard to not be all over everyone's paper. It just felt impossible for me to really get off of everyone's paper when it was so much of my responsibility.
Wow. So you got out of homeschooling too.
Yeah, that comes a little bit later,
It
but
comes later. Okay.
at that point, so it was baby steps of like what I was comfortable with. So I did end up putting them in an online school where they had accountability to teachers and they had a start time and an end time. And, they had to submit their assignments to their tutors. And so that was like a baby step of relinquishing control of them being accountable to someone else and me stepping out of that and suffering consequences when they, didn't do the assignment correctly or didn't turn it in on time. Uh, yeah, it wasn't ready to fully let that go yet.
No, but I mean, this is awesome because and this was all in service of you. Yeah, this is like, and
Yeah.
I can't nag my kids or be on their paper about the homework. It's too stressful. My nervous system can't handle it, is kind of what I hear you saying. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it sounds like it doesn't sound like a baby step at all. It sounds like a big step because
it
I
was.
get from the story of, the 25 families, 100 kids, of the community that you built in Northern California, this homeschooling, this is a big value. This is something you'd put a lot of energy and effort into.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's what's funny. Now I look back and I go, oh my gosh, I spent all those years learning how to be a, great mom, great homeschooler, great educator. I didn't really learn how to be a wife until 4 years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
wow. Okay. Well, I love it. Okay. So far it sounds like your self-care is through the roof. I mean, it sounds really good to me. Like there's a walk, there's kombucha, there's chocolate, there's naps,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's
It was
getting things off the
doable. It was
paper.
because I always had these excuses like, well, I just can't, that was my thing holding me back from Laura Doyle was like, how does someone with all these kids do that? But
Yeah.
started to be intentional, like, oh, I can take a little bit extra time in the shower and just be intentional and really feel the water and put a shower steamer in there and really wash my hair and, like really enjoy the experience. I could do that, that doesn't cost money and that's practical, but I can be intentional or, on my walks, I can take in the season. I can really notice the flowers blooming and I can feel the breeze on my skin, or I can, appreciate first fall of snow. We had snow in Texas, which we didn't have in California. So that was fun. Like, oh my gosh, we have some snow. That's fun. Uh, so I started to just be really present, and then which led for me receiving graciously and gratitude, and so all the other skills coming into play. But it started with the self-care. It really did start with self-care.
I mean, that was so moving to hear you list those things this was a perspective change, right? The snow was going to be there either way. You were going to be in the shower either way, but now you're enjoying washing your hair. Now you've got the steamer in there. So, so amazing. And this started because your husband accused you of being joyless. So
Yeah. So that
yeah,
was like, I'm going to prove, I mean, I was competitive still. So it was like, I'm going to prove to you that you're not going to be able to say that I'm joyless because I'm going to be so joyful.
I'm going to show you how
Yeah.
happy I am.
Yeah. But
And
that was huge too, because I was so affected by his mood that I just was resolved. You are not taking me down.
yeah,
I don't care what mood you come home in, I am joyful. So,
Wow, which is awesome. It really that worked in your favor. So
oh
you
yeah.
are now are you so you're going around he comes home, you're smiling or you're laughing or you're dancing in the kitchen or
Yeah. Yeah. Or if I just couldn't because it was just too hard, then I went on a walk or I just went to sit in adoration, whatever I needed. How do I feel? What do I want? Whatever I needed was what I would do. I just
yeah, you were
really,
taking your pulse all day long so that you
yeah.
could be happy. Okay, I love it. All right.
Yeah.
And you're on your paper like crazy.
Yeah. And that's where I really started to dig deep in my faith because that was the thing. Like earlier, you asked what my coping mechanism was. It was my social outlets. It was my friends. I was filling up through my friends. And I didn't even see how that had become an idol for me. Like I was stripped away from all of that. I was here in this new place in another state, far away from my friends and family. And I didn't even have connection with my husband. So all I had was God. And I had to dig really deep in my faith. So instead, I stopped praying to God to change my husband and I started to pray for him to change me. And I just resolved to be loved in my home no matter what. And so by me turning into me, I recognized that I had this deep wound from my childhood that really needed healing because I would hear in my head, I'm only lovable if, and fill in the blank. I'm only lovable if. And I could see where this had gotten in the way of me receiving true love my whole life. And it had colored my relationships because for years, I felt like I was only lovable if I could meet my husband's impossible expectations. And so I walked on eggshells and I taught my kids to do that as well. And it became us against him.
Oh,
As I grew better at just receiving God's love for me and believing that I am his beloved daughter and that he chose me and he loves me for who I am and that he chose the perfect husband for me. And I started telling myself this every single day, along with my husband is kind and generous, and he's a great leader for our family. That was my spouse fulfilling
it's a
prophecy
fantastic
that he's a narcissistic, abusive, like
alcoholic. Yeah.
all these things. I said, he is a kind, loving, generous leader for our family, and he's the perfect husband for me, and I am a beloved daughter of God. And the more I said this, the more I believed and the more confident that I became. And then it was easier to smile at my husband and I just felt lighter. I wasn't as defensive. I decided to put down my sword and refuse to pick it up again. And I would
Wow.
listen when he communicated, even when he was angry. And I would just respond with, I hear you without becoming defensive or storming off or feeling like a victim. And I just started to hear his heart messages. And I could see that he really did want what was best for me.
He wasn't wishing you misery like you had. And these things, when you were repeating them to yourself, that he's kind and generous and a great leader for our family, it must have felt like a lie.
Initially, yeah. But then I started, I think because I was spending so much time alone and with God rather than spewing all this stuff to friends or, that God was showing me like, look at us, how much evidence. Look at this neighborhood that you live in. It's all because this was your desire. He made this happen. Look at this, look at all these children, you know, you have to be a good man to have all these children, and provide for them. And I all the evidence started piling up. So then I got really brave to experiment with desires because I was so afraid. Remember this guy who was intending to make me miserable?
Yes. That's
I
what
was
I heard. Yeah.
Let's just
Super
see.
hazard.
Let's really see if this is true. Because Laura, like, she tells these stories about desires, and I don't know. I don't know if that sounds really scary.
That'd be
So,
true, right? Yeah.
so I really had wanted a piano because my husband got rid of our piano before we moved. He got rid of like everything, and so I really wanted a piano for our home. And we didn't have a wall to put an upright piano. We just had this big, beautiful space to put
A
a
grand
really
piano.
piano. And so I don't even play piano, Laura. I don't play piano, but I wanted a piano. And
Okay.
so I took my 2 oldest kids. There was a piano sale at the college close by. And I thought, let's just go to this piano sale. And so we go, and my 2 oldest kids were looking, and we see this 1920s Steinway, this beautiful 1920s Steinway. And I was like that. And we saw the price on it, and it was like way more than what I was thinking for a piano. But my husband was holding an event at his work. And so I went over there, and really, I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm doing it. And so I just went in, and with a huge smile on my face, and Joel said, honey, we just went to this piano sale, and they have the most beautiful 1920s Steinway. It is so beautiful. I would love that piano. It's so beautiful. And he went, like, he said, did you get the guy's information or anything? And so I hand him this card, and I'm like, when he finds out how much it is, there's no way. There's no way. So he comes, and he's in the middle of this event at work too. He came out like 20 minutes later, and he said, it's being delivered tomorrow. I was like, wait, you did not just spend that money on that piano. Like, I could not believe it, Laura. I was like, okay, that was kind of scary.
Yeah.
I could not believe it. And so that was my first big expression of a desire that I was shocked.
And you knew what you were doing going into this. You're like, I'm going to experiment. Laura says this. I'm going to try it.
The guy that like wants me to be miserable, right? You know?
Yeah. And
I don't even play piano.
Yeah, no, there's no good practical reason to have this piano.
Yeah.
You just want it.
Yeah.
And he made it happen instantly.
Yeah. And so many more stories about expressing desires. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And you make it sound like it's pretty easy, but it is scary. You said it was scary. So this took a lot of courage, actually,
yeah, a lot of courage. Yeah.
But you did it. It sounds like you did it without expectation. Like you were kind of.
Totally. And that was the thing. It was like, this is something I can really let go of the expectation for, but I'm just going to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was really evidence to me, like, whoa, it's true. He really does want to make me happy.
Every day when you see your piano, you're like, huh.
Yeah.
This proves it. I love that story. Wow. So
little by little, I had, just experimenting with all different kinds. I mean, so many stories. I could sit here forever telling you stories of my husband just fulfilling desire after desire. So I had all this evidence mounting, and we were making the drive from Texas back to California every Christmas to visit family at Christmas time. And so in 2024, heading back from Northern California back to Texas, my husband expressed that he really wanted to move back to California. And that had been my deepest desire, but my fears would take over. And so now he was expressing this desire to move back to California. And then, of course, my fears like jumped right in, and they were like, but his drinking, like he's drinking too much. He's got to get that under control before we do this. Or no, he's just running away from his problems. But how can we afford that? Our financial stability has been totally destroyed. Or, I'm thinking we're going to live in a shack. There's no way we can afford California again. We ruined that, or, everyone says, once you move out, you can't come back. So I was listening to all those things, and school, like, what was I going to do for school now? Like all the fears, even though that was my deepest desire, all the fears and all the shouldǹts, like why we shouldn't do it, were flooding in. And I was pregnant again. And so I was like, we're having another baby. It's just this is crazy. So here, like, this was my deepest desire to move back to California. But now when he shared it, all the fears, all the why, all the shoulds, like, flooded. And so thank goodness that I had a coach and skills to work through that. Yeah. But so I did this time around. I was able to express, though I can't, by recognizing my limitations. So I was able to use I can't be vulnerable with all the packing and all the moving, but when we moved from California to Texas, we did it with an 18-foot truck, and we did all the packing, all the moving ourselves. And so this time I knew what my limits were, especially being pregnant, and I was going to have a brand new baby. And I just expressed I can't. And my husband handled everything.
Oh
I
my
mean, getting our house right, the realtors, getting our house ready to sell. I mean, he went all out. Like, he had the house fully repainted. I mean, when my husband does things, he doesn't just like kind of do it. He does it all the way. Like I said, he's very methodical. He is very thorough, and he goes all the way. So he had our house completely. This is a big house, and he had it complete. We'd only been there for 3 years, and he had it completely repainted inside and out. He had new carpet put in, and this was all stuff that I thought, why are you spending the money on that? But totally relinquished control. He handled everything. He hired movers. I didn't have to pack anything. They handled everything. And so all I did was come up with I remember we were going to live in a shack in
Yeah,
California.
a shack. Yeah, it was depressing. I remember.
Yeah. So depressing, thinking
Yeah.
like we were going to be the homeless in California. So
Yeah.
I decided, well, I should just make a wish list of because this will, I'll just make a wish list of what I would love to have. And then he can see, like, there's no way we could have that. So I made a wish list of everything I wanted in a house. And we had 1 weekend to come out to California and find a rental. And we came out, and the first rentals we looked at were like, see, and this is what we're going to get.
Shacks. Yeah.
Yeah. And then a friend of mine, we had visited a friend of mine down the street, and the next morning, and I said, I love your neighborhood. I love your street. The next morning, she texted and said, a rental just came up on our street, and it's beautiful. You have to go see it. So we went to see this house, and Laura, this house has every single thing on my wish list. Like,
You're
like
kidding.
detail. It is everything. Spanish style, basketball hoop, pool, spa, beautiful kitchen, upstairs and downstairs laundry, enough bedrooms for the kids. I mean, this is not a shack. It's beautiful.
Not a shack. Upstairs
Yeah.
and downstairs laundry.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my husband, we walked in, and without even looking at it, because he knew my wish list, and he was like, this is it. I want, like, we're renting this house. This house is ours, and so he made it all happen. He made it happen. So then on that trip, we went to go visit the school that we were going to put our high schooler in, because I knew I wanted to put my high schooler in school. I was still going to homeschool the rest of the kids. Wasn't ready to let go of that yet. I still really wanted to homeschool. And so we went to visit the school, which is a school also that years ago when we started homeschooling, I used to say, well, if we had this school, then I wouldn't be homeschooling, because this is like the best school. This is like the model of what all, the school, this is like the school, And so this is the school that we were going to, this is why he wanted to move our family to Southern California instead of Northern California.
Wow.
So we went to go visit this school for my high schooler, and we're walking and touring, and he said, I don't think homeschooling's working anymore, and I want to put all the kids here. And at first it was like such an ouch. Like, how dare you say that homeschooling's not working anymore? But because of the skills, I just kept my mouth shut, and I said, I hear you. And I would still love, it's hard for me to let go of homeschooling, but I trust you. And he figured out a way to put everyone, because we also have two. So we were also moving closer to our two oldest kids who are in college, close by. And so we have two in college, and he figured out a way to put all the other kids in this school, which I was really nervous about, but he wanted me to be able to be just home with our baby. Because I would always say, like, I just want to have the experience of our oldest two are 15 months apart. So it's like I never really got the experience of just being with one baby and like just loving on that one baby. So I get to be home with just one baby. And now I'm a coach. So I get to coach during the day with the baby, like I have the baby, and I get to just take walks and like have the best life ever because my husband did that.
Wow. So you're just like the queen who moves without touching a box, and who just luxuriates with her baby and goes for walks and lives in definitely not a shack.
No.
Beautiful home. Yeah. So, wow. This is
Not only that, he also honored this desire, crazy desire that I had to go to Paris with our oldest daughter when she graduated and my best friend and her daughter. So right after we moved, he sent my daughter and I and the baby off to Paris. And he and my oldest son got our house settled so that we could go off to Paris, and which I thought was impossible. I thought there's no way. There's no way that this can, like, there's no way we could do that.
okay.
But
Now,
he,
does any of this bring up guilt for you, Amy? Like, did you have trouble receiving that when he sent you off to Paris?
I think because of the skills and because being in the community, no. I think if I didn't have that, yes, I wouldn't have been able to receive. But I think because of being in the community, having these skills, I know how important it is for me to receive that from him. Yeah.
Wow. I love it. So you're just well trained and you're like, yes, please to Paris. Yes, please to this beautiful house. And this is the same man that was trying to make you miserable before.
Yeah. Yep. The same guy who had me so afraid and so hopeless and stuck. Yeah.
Wow. And was verbally abusive
Yeah.
too. So, okay. So very curious how he changed so much. It's incredible, right? So,
Yeah.
I love really inspiring stories. So, so what about that? Like, how is your, like, you guys were fighting a lot before. Yeah. What happened with that?
Well, like I said, I decided to be love and joy in the home, no matter what. I started to become very present to everything that he had done for me since we were 15, over all the years of our life, and have gratitude and express gratitude to him. I really relinquished control of the drinking, and that was very, very, very scary. But I got so on my paper and filling myself up and just, and I would go to Al-Anon meetings and hear the same message. So I knew this is what I have to do. I have no control and I'm just letting go and letting God. And I know that God loves him more than I do. And he's going to find his way. My husband is obviously he's a very bright man. Like he's a very,
Definitely.
and so I would take any fears that would creep in because they really did. I mean, I had a lot of fears. And I would take those fears and I would just hand it over to God. I would just turn to prayer instead of bringing it to my husband. I would turn to prayer and choose respect. I would choose just to believe the best in my husband always. I would just say, because he would express that he was, wanting to change and wanting to figure this out. And I would say, you'll figure it out. You always do. And because I just love stories. I love stories. I'm a homeschooling mom. I love stories. And I would think of Beauty and the Beast. And there were a lot of times that I was standing before the beast. I was standing before this beast that looked like a beast, smelled like a beast, talked like a beast, moved like a beast. And I would just think of my unknown lover and just trust that I was just gonna love my unknown lover no matter what. And then I would think, what if Beauty, when the beast lets her go back home to be with her father, what if Beauty what if out of fear she had decided not to go back to the beast? Like she wouldn't have gotten the end of her story, right? And so that would just motivate me. I don't know the end of this story. And I'm just gonna keep loving this unknown lover that I just know is there. Even though I don't see him, I just know it's there and I'm going to love that. And that became my focus. And now, I mean, I can say that my husband is amazing, so amazing. He is so gentle and kind and loving. I mean, he still has he can be triggered into that beastie side, but I know that that's not now when that comes out, I know that there's fear or hurt under that because my experience is more of this gentle, loving, kind leader. He's amazing. Yeah. But I have to say, so this is actually huge. This is huge. Or because I could not have done this without the skills. So one day we were sitting at the table and he said, he hadn't stopped drinking. And he was actually really it had gotten worse. And so he said, there are all these deals on flights to the UK. So what would you do if I just booked myself a flight and went on a trip alone, like as a reset trip for a week? And I was terrified, Laura. Like inside, I thought, that is crazy. Like he's just running away from his problems. He's going to go there to drink. But I said, whatever you think, I trust you. And so he went on a trip by himself to Ireland. And while he was gone, I resisted the urge to check in. I just prayed for his safety. And I just acted, was gothel, girl of fun and light when he would call. And then when he got home, he had visited the shrine of Our Lady of Knock, which was amazing that he had done that. And then he brought home holy water fonts and crucifixes for me. So I received those graciously. But he was really sick. I could see he was really, really sick. He had swollen ankles and this rash all over his body. And he had this general malaise and chills. And it was lasting for over a week. And so one morning, I dropped our kids off at school and came home, and I could tell he'd already been drinking, which really wasn't like him to be drinking early in the morning. And so I was really scared. And I sat down and I just said, honey, I respect you. And I know that I trust you make the right decisions for yourself, but I'm concerned. And, could I take you to the hospital? And he said yes. And so I took him to the hospital, and it turned out he had sepsis. He had gotten a blood infection.
He would have died.
He would have died. He had this blood infection, and I don't know how but Laura, all I can say it's because I relinquished control, let go and let God. That led him to the hospital. He had to be sober for 6 days and go through detox by being in the hospital for 6 days. When he was there, he learned that he had a friend from when we were younger that had died that really upset him. And I had a priest, come to give him, I didn't know he could have died. I had a priest come to give him anointing of the sick. And anyways, by the grace of God, my husband has had 6 months sober since then. And huge, he talks about just what a huge transformation he's had through all this. And he says it's because he thanks me for always believing the best in him and just standing for him. And actually, I don't know if we have time, but I wrote him a letter when he was in the hospital. I don't know if we have time. Do you have
We
time?
do. Oh, yes. Yes, we do.
Yeah, let me just bring that up really quick. So when he was in the hospital, it was our anniversary and his birthday. And so I wrote him this letter. And I said, Tommy, I said, I'm going to try and express myself through writing to tell you how much I love you and my desire for our future. This last week has brought forth many insights for me. First, I fully believe that God makes no mistakes, and he's the most ingenious and satisfying storyteller of all. He had a plan for us from day one, and my pride and ego have gotten in the way of trusting him completely. Since we got together at 15, I have never desired for anyone else as my partner in this life. I know that may seem disingenuous, as I have so regrettably made numerous comments over the years comparing you to others and expressing dissatisfaction or disapproval. In my efforts to help you, I have been downright hurtful, and that has never been my intention, yet I own the consequences. You have devoted yourself over the last 22 years to build a beautiful life for our family. You've led us to the church, brought vision to reality and building up your business, buying our dream homes, ensuring our comfort. You've selflessly supported us in order to give our kids a solid Catholic education. You've created innumerable experiences for our family to enrich our lives and fill the pages of photo books to recall fond memories. Furthermore, you've invested in me to become the best version of myself and learning how to be a better wife. I wish I had learned these lessons sooner, but God needed me to hit my rock bottom to recognize my faults and participation in our breakdown, and I am forever grateful. God makes no mistakes. I look at our 8 children, all of which would have never existed without our union, and cannot imagine my life without them. I cannot imagine a world without them, and the ripple effect of our lives is remarkable when you consider all the lives you actually say yes to when you surrender to God's plan for marriage. I never would have had the courage to give my yes if it hadn't been for your steadfast excitement with each positive pregnancy test. My security has come from your unwavering confidence. And I look at our family and I am in awe of what God has done through our humble surrender to Him despite our faults and weaknesses. Your sacrifices to provide have obviously not been without great consequences. Thus, here we are celebrating your 45th birthday and our 22nd anniversary, broken down in a hospital room. And I can only imagine the weight of the world that you carry on your shoulders for the sake of our family. It's no accident that I had the vision of you as the suffering Christ as I rub lotion on your back's wounds one day. I see you here disfigured, frail, and beaten down, and it brings me great pain to acknowledge my part in your suffering. Just as I have come to recognize the wounds that I've inflicted upon Christ in my own sins and rebelliousness against His ways, I was brought to tears that day in the kitchen when all of a sudden I saw so clearly that every decision you've made for our family has been for my ultimate good and how often I've fought against you. I'm ashamed of my pridefulness and reluctance to trust, and I see now how God has always worked through you, and I've just been so egotistical to try to correct or instruct because my ways are not God's ways, and unlike me, He does not make mistakes. So what now? I've learned my lesson not to tell you what to do, and that being said, for me, I desire health, sobriety, connection, intimacy, playfulness, adventure, tenderness, humility, and stalwart faith for this next chapter. I've heard you express so many times over the years your desire to truly reset, to heal from hurt, and to be healthy and strong in body and mind. We have so many dreams to fulfill. God, in His mercy, has been so generous and provided so much to us. I know this is a painful and vulnerable place to be, fully surrendered and suffering. This is the crucifixion. But what lies ahead on the other side, I believe, is our resurrection, and that's where my hope lies. That's where my vision for us lies. God is clear in His word for us. The Father read this passage as He prayed over you. Come to me, all you that labor and are burdened, and I will refresh you. Take up my yoke upon you and learn of me, because I am meek and humble of heart, and you shall find rest to your souls. For my yoke is sweet and my burden is light. You have laid down your life, you have carried heavy burdens and labored so tirelessly, and I pray you accept this invitation. God is the best storyteller. The words of our song, the lyrics that preceded your proposal to me play on repeat in my head. You don't realize how much I need you. Love you all the time and never leave you. Please come on back to me. I'm lonely as can be. I need you. I love you so much. Forever your beloved, Amy.
Oh, beautiful letter. Wow. And he gave that to him in the hospital.
Yeah, for our anniversary and for his birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And he did come home to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow. The resurrection. There was resurrection.
Yeah. And he's my hero. I mean, yeah, one of the things that I was, really frustrated over and didn't know how to fix was, I still was like doing so much with household and so I kind of left this gap. I had stopped, I'd learned my limits and I just stopped doing too much. I just stuck to what didn't lead to resentment. I just handled what I could. And so that would leave this gap. And so one day I expressed to him like, you know, I know that I want to be the cheerleader in the home. I want to be joyful. And I can't be that way when I'm nagging the kids to get chores done. I feel like a shrew. It brings out the shrew in me, and I don't want to be that way anymore. And I had shown him this app, this app for chores about a year ago, and just showed it to him and shared I would love this and left it. I didn't have any expectations, but anyways, one day he asked me for a list of all these chores, all the household chores. And so I gave him a list of all the chores, and he had set up this app that I had showed him a year ago. He set it up, and he has completely taken on being the general for all the apps for the kids, every chore. And he now, tells the kids like, Mom shouldn't have to really do anything. You have all the chores, amongst you. And there are benefits, like they have an allowance tied to it. So they're really motivated and excited. So now I get to just cheer them on. Like, you guys, you're doing so great. Like look at all this money you're by doing these chores. I get to be the cheerleader. And he has taken on
Unbelievable.
it's amazing.
Unbelievable. Wait. So you mean to tell me all these kids, they do their chores, they do it with excitement. Your husband oversees it. You're just, and mom shouldn't have to do anything. So they do all the chores. They do all the chores.
That's where I do feel guilty sometimes. It's like, no, I can't. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm loving this. Like who does that? So, but it did take a little something to overcome your mindset. It sounds like, like feeling like you should have to do something.
My mindset, and it was really me getting clear on my desire is I want to be a joyful presence in the home. And when I'm nagging the kids, I don't feel like a joyful presence. And so recognizing, oh, that's me and my masculine energy, and it doesn't feel good. It feels yucky, And so I recognize this is not, I need to create this space for him to be my hero. And so I didn't know that before.
No, incredible. I mean, I can certainly recall my mom being in her masculine, nagging all those kids to do stuff. It was unappealing for us as kids, but I'm sure it wasn't fun for her either. So this is the alternative. This is the way you do it. You let, and he organizes them, but it sounds like they're pretty inspired too. Like no one needs to nag them. They don't even need to be nagged. That wasn't actually the thing. Okay. That was never
they just go into the app and they can see what they need to do and they check it off and they see, okay, I'm earning money and I get to manage my money and I can just cheer them on, So
incredible. Okay. Love this. So yeah. So that it's not your job. Doing chores is not your job. That's not part of
I get to just, and my husband set that up for them to now they're all in school except for the baby, and I just cheer them on.
So you don't nag about the homework? You don't nag about
brushing? Oh my gosh, Laura. Oh my gosh. No wonder I was so unattractive to my husband before. I was so unattractive. Yes, like nagging about math lessons and, losing all my peace and exhausted at night, having nothing to give him because I was so worn out by school. And now I'm not. Now I'm so filled up on, my life is, I love it. It's so filled up and light and joyful and good.
Wow. Okay. So I just want to review for a second. You don't do homework. They don't have to brush your teeth. You don't have to worry about chores. Like, what exactly do you do around there to earn your keep?
I know. It's like, and my husband, like, he loves that I'm just light. We are best. It's like being 15 again. That's what it is.
15 again. Okay. And so you're no longer joyless. That is not, you're a totally different woman. You're a girl of fun and light. Like when you were 15.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so has he ever like acknowledged this or said something like, wow, you're not joyless anymore?
Well, it's so funny because now I'm leading all these. I just love sharing the skills so much, and so I am leading all these book studies. I've been leading book studies to share the skills with women, and so anyways, he's so grateful. He's so grateful that I can share this with other women to recruit them on this joyful adventure.
Yeah, I love it too. I especially just am really floored by hearing that this is your experience because sometimes I'll share about how I just don't do anything around here either. I don't do dishes or laundry or, I don't do any housework. I don't even cook anymore. And, will sometimes get some flack. Like people will say like, how can you say that? That's my job. Like I can't believe you would advise women to, and I'm just sharing my experience, right? And you're just sharing your experience. We don't know what's best for everybody, but, I just love hearing like, and I feel like sometimes I'll feel like, well, I can get away with that because I don't have kids. And, but
Laura, that was a big thing keeping me from you. I know. But you know what? So I do a disclaimer. I need to put in a disclaimer. I handle what I want to do.
Yes.
I do what I want to do.
Same.
And that doesn't, so obviously, I want to be accountable for myself. And so I do, my laundry and I do a lot of laundry, but I do it joyfully because
you can.
I can. And I'm filled up and I'm not resentful. But if I start to feel resentful, then I just know this, It's not worth it. This is like
Yeah.
a near equation for sin for me to do it. So I'm not going to do it.
Love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
I do a lot, but it's joyful. I do it because I want to. Yeah. Yeah. And
Wow.
my husband is an amazing cook and he loves to cook and now he's managing all the chores and keeping things organized. And now I just get to be the cheerleader and, you know,
Fold some laundry. Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Well, that is an amazing, like, what a beacon of hope for anybody that's feeling like they are kind of trapped nagging, right? I remember
yeah,
feeling like I was trapped in my nagging. Like, what alternative do I have? This is not going to get done if I don't
yeah,
nag.
yeah. The
And
only
it
way I can
it's
get the kids
awful.
to respond is by me yelling at them. Yeah. And
Yeah,
not,
that's the only way. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And there is another way, and you
yeah,
are
yeah.
living it. So it's so inspiring. All right. So what is your marriage like now?
Well, I'll give you just a snapshot of our weekend. Like this was just this weekend, yesterday, the day before. So one of my daughter, well, my oldest daughter came home from college because our kids' school was putting on their musical, and she loves theater. So I invited her to come to the theater with us. So we went to see the musical for my kids' school, which was amazing. By the way, this school is just amazing. And my husband doesn't like theater, so he went and did something else. And with the little boys, he took the little boys to do something else, which, in the old days, I would have been so upset that, like, why does he have to be, now it's like, okay, he doesn't like theater. It's fine. So we went to the theater, and then the next night we actually went back to the theater. No, yeah. So then the kids and we went and got dinner and we had a really fun day. And then my husband, checked in with us after the play and he wanted to meet us for ice cream. So he drove our little vintage car to get ice cream, and we all met at the ice cream shop. And he, bought us all ice cream, and then he took some of the kids home in the vintage convertible car, which is super fun.
Like a movie, like you're in a movie. Like, okay.
Yeah, and then yesterday I got to go on my walk in the morning and bring home fresh pastries, and we all went to mass together. And then we we went swimming and went in the hot tub. My husband made a big, huge, amazing meal for all of us. And we all enjoyed a meal together. And then we went back in the hot tub. And then we just sat around the table talking until late last night, laughing. And my daughter went back to college this morning, early this morning. And my husband just was so excited that I was doing this podcast this morning. So he had to go off to a meeting, but he just gave me a big huge kiss and was so excited. So that's our life now.
Oh
That's
my
a
gosh.
lot of
So
hot tub
supportive.
dates, lots of walks, and in the shack, that we live in.
With the basketball hoop and the pool. Yeah.
I
And the
mean,
laundry upstairs and down. I mean, amazing. So this is a dream marriage you're living now. This is a dream family life. How has this impacted your kids that you've made all these changes, that you have completely transformed from joyless, nagging person to
yeah,
joyful cheerleader? Yeah. Happy girl of fun and grateful girl of fun and light.
yeah, it's such a huge difference. It is really, truly. I mean, and not to say we're not perfect. There are moments where there's tension and yelling. With a lot of the kids, like, they're normal. But so one thing that really stood out to me and really brought tears to my eyes during the height of our challenges and during our deepest, darkest time, there was a night where my husband and I were fighting, and our daughter called us into our room, and she said that because of us, she didn't even want to get married, and that just it just hurt so deep. It was such a deep, visceral pain, and And last week, there was a day where my daughter texted me really late and she said, "Oh, she texted, I was out with my friends and we were all talking about, how we want to have big families." And she said, I just thank you so much for the way you and dad have raised me." And it was like, it felt so good. It just felt so good to be at that place where, ah, this is something that she desires for her. That all of our kids talk about how they can't wait to grow up and have a big family, and because they desire this. It's good.
They
It's
love it. They love
good.
it.
Yes.
Can you think of
And
any?
now I teach my boys, like, actually, I was reading Robin Hood with one of my kids last night, and we are talking about chivalry, and like, he was talking about how important chivalry is. And one of my sons, my 14-year-old son, was talking about, I don't understand why girls are so competitive with each other about like what they look like and makeup and hair and all these things. He said, we just think they're beautiful. And it just was like, it just makes me so happy to hear these things,
Yeah,
that, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And my husband yesterday, to one of my daughters, she really wants to get a haircut, and she's trying to, anyways, it's been this long discussion. My husband said, how about this? Because I talked to him about the skills too. And so he was like, how about this? How about I take you to a salon, a real salon, and we just relinquish control, and we let the hairdresser cut it however she thinks would be best for your face. And I was like, and my daughter was like kind of fighting it. I'm like, this is an awesome opportunity to receive graciously from a very generous daddy. Like, that's how it is. That's how it is. It's so great.
It's so great. And you probably do stuff like that too. You probably surrender when you go to get your haircut, or yeah, trust the experts that they're going to do their best. Wow. I'm unbelievable. So the skills have kind of permeated your whole family,
Yeah.
it sounds like. And your kids, I mean, can you think of any greater accomplishment than to demonstrate a loving family to all those kids that they want to recreate what they're experiencing right now? Like, could you be any prouder or happier that this is what you invested your time and energy in doing?
This is like my life's greatest accomplishment, Laura. And I really don't know if I could have gotten here without you. So thank you.
Oh, great to hear. It's so moving. I'm so inspired. Yeah, it brings me to tears. So what would you say to a woman who is where you were, where she just feels so alone and hopeless, and he's a narcissistic alcoholic, you know, uh, he's just never there he's working all the time, and she wants the guy that gets the piano and says let's all get ice cream, and drives around, finds the dream home, and says to the daughter, I'll take you to a salon, and is all about treating you like the queen, making sure the kids do their chores in an inspired way. She wants what you have now. What's your best tip for her? Where should she start? What should she do?
I think the first place to start is knowing that she is a beloved daughter of God. She's a beloved daughter of God. She's so loved and she's so chosen, and that her husband is the perfect husband for her. And to never lose faith and hope, and to be love in her family, to choose to be love. And then to just trust that the skills will help her to get there. Trust that the skills will help her to get there, because, yeah, perfect love casts out all fear. And it also covers a multitude of sins. And she can have it all. She can have it all. She really can. Just, yeah. Not to be afraid. I've learned so much, Laura. I've learned so much. I've learned so much that, like, and on such a deep spiritual level, that there's purpose of these desires that are in our hearts that God has put there for a reason. And there's a reason that the enemy doesn't want us to go there, because those desires are meant for our husbands, and for our husbands to honor. I mean, it's a beautiful cycle that God has created, and the enemy doesn't want us to get in touch with our desires. And so, like, the minute you start going there, right, all the shoulds, all the fears, like, creep in. And so these skills, like learning how to become fearless, it really is just to take courage and know that I am God. Like, know that your loving Father in heaven, like, sees you and wants what's best for you.
Beautiful.
There's no limit. There's no limit.
Wow. I love this about the desires are purposeful, and to withhold your desires from your husband is actually like counterproductive, right? That's like, it's one of the worst things you can do in a way. So yeah, I love that.
You have a way of putting it in the book, and maybe you'll remember like what you say. But you say something our our desires color what he wants, and what he wants colors our desires, or something. I might not have that right, but that really had me thinking about this beautiful cycle in marriage, and what God's intention for marriage is, and believing it. Like, oh my gosh, it's so true. It's so true.
And it's kind of mysterious. I feel like it's a little bit hidden and not easy to see in marriage, right? That these are like things that are kind of behind the curtain until you experiment with them, or somebody shows you that this is the system, right? This is the beautiful system.
No, and that's where I need to make an apology to you, Laura. That's one of the reasons I wanted to come on here, to apologize to you, because as I said, years ago, I listened to your book, and I wrote you off. Like, you're not coming at this from faith, and you're not a mother. How could you possibly relate? And what I have realized in these past 3 years with you, 4 years with you, is that every woman is a mother. And you have been a real spiritual mother to so many women, that we were orphaned. A lot of us have been orphaned, and you have been a real spiritual mother. And like I said, I would not have this. I wouldn't even have my last baby if it hadn't been for you teaching these skills. So thank you. Thank you for giving your yes and sharing these skills with your book, and, continuing on this mission to end world divorce. I just have a huge, huge place in my heart for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Oh. Thank you. I feel the love.
It's really meaningful. Yeah.
What do you think you would say to yourself if you could go back in time and tell yourself what you know now?
I would say that God is the author of this story, and not to get in the way. Like, he is the best storyteller, and just to get out of his way, and it's not the end. Like, even when you're in the darkest time, it's not the end of your story. He's writing the best stories, and stay tuned. Stay focused on what you want, and just all he's asking is that we be love. Just be love. It's so beautiful. I couldn't have written a better story. It's so good.
It's so
It's still
good.
being written. It's still going. It's still going. I can't even believe it.
And you are an incredible example of love, of being love, choosing love. And your story just illustrates over and over again how you chose your faith and how you chose your courage. And now you are living in this beautiful, like, just delicious, like, dreamlike family of your own making, like, because of the focus you chose, because of the work that you did, because of the humility, because of your commitment. So it just really rings true as you say it. And I just want to congratulate you so big, Amy. Like, what an inspiration. Here's my Best Wife Award, which you are so richly deserving of. What an incredible triumph to create the family that you have created by being so open and so willing. I know not at first, but like now you're just, that's this incredible shiny example of what's possible. And I'm so honored and inspired to get to have a front row seat to your journey and get to hear all about it. And so grateful that you shared with all of us today so publicly on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. No, honestly, thank you for creating this platform for real women, who have had these transformations to share, because There are so many misconceptions about what your skills are and what you're teaching and what you stand for. And it takes these stories of real, true women, sharing to I hope it touches someone. I really do.
Oh,
Yeah.
it definitely did. And I'm grateful for that too, because I can't tell a story of what it's like to have 8 or 9 or 7 children and to use the skills. And, but you can, and you did. And it's just the best.
Yay. We're ending divorce. I love it, Laura.
Me too. Me too. Thank you so much, Amy.
More than that, we're bringing hope, right? We're bringing hope.
Yes.
And really need it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. You don't have to nag or do all those chores. Thank you. For more of the proven secrets on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, check this out.